And it's good to see Rick, and it's very appropriate for me to come after Rick because mostly we get emails to us as members of the House of Representatives, of Washington State House of Representatives, complaining about the U.S. House of Representatives and asking us to vote yes or no on bills in the U.S. House, and then we have to explain where we're from and then give them what their representatives' contact information is. So. And Rick, I'm happy to talk to Hakeem Jeffries about how to build a stronger majority. I'm very happy to help with that. But we'll be very happy when you're in the majority and not in the minority. I think all of us will be. I was so happy to be able to come up here to say a few words about Strom. First of all, though, let me tell you what we focused on this session and that Strom was such a big part of. We felt like we really had three priorities in the House and as a legislature. The first was basically to protect Washingtonians from, there's no other word to describe it, but the malevolence of the federal government right now and everything that the federal government is doing to actively harm people in this state. Yes. And we passed probably a dozen pieces of legislation, everything from prohibiting masking of law enforcement officers to making sure employees get notice if the federal government is coming into their workplace. Good. Read that as ICE coming to their workplace. Good. So that they can make decisions for their own safety and for their family. Flock cameras and the data that's kept with flock cameras. Protecting people's data, especially our trans siblings who the federal government's trying to get what people's original birth certificates were so they can more easily deny them passports and other things. So we passed a bunch of bills in that area. We then also worked on affordability, which is something that Rick and Marco and Rick, everybody has talked about. And it is hard to do that when the federal government is doing all of this harm to you on the affordability space and knowing that we're the most trade-dependent state in the country. And so the tariffs are having an awful impact on us. But we were able to do things like pass some legislation to help with utility costs for low-income Washingtonians. We protected Washingtonians' right to preventive care at no cost, so vaccines, cancer screenings, stuff like that. Good. No matter what the feds do, we're going to make sure people can get those screenings. The sad part of that for me is I work in public health in my other career, and for the first time in history, we separated ourselves from the recommendations of the Centers for Disease Control because they no longer make recommendations based on science. And then some of you may have heard, I don't think it's happened up here, but in my community and in North Seattle, grocery stores have closed and created food deserts. What most people don't know is when those grocery stores close, the large companies that own them have restrictive covenants that prevent any other grocery store from moving in. Well, we did away with those covenants. Doesn't mean necessarily that a grocery store will return there, but we don't want there to be a restriction. Probably the biggest thing that we did together, Strom and I spent the night together. And I spent it with Mia and with Cindy and with Brandy, debating for 26 hours about the millionaire's tax in the House. I won't go into all the details of it, but I will say that's one of the biggest things that we've done to restructure our tax code, make sure it's more fair for lower income Washingtonians, that we're investing in services, but also making sure that people are able to the poorest Washingtonians are able to take home more money to decide how they want to spend it. So I say all of these things to say that Strom is a central part of that. I didn't mention housing this year because it was actually Strom that said, Laurie, this year what we need to do on housing is all of the permitting stuff. He has overseen over the last 5 years, being chair of that committee, he's overseen nearly 30 bills that reform permitting in Washington state to make it easier and quicker to build housing in the state. And so he said, we gotta now see where that goes. Let's see where that leads us. Let's take a breath. and then we'll move forward next year with the next set of what we do. So this is one of Strom's great skills. He's a pretty cool cucumber. He doesn't, I've only seen him sweat twice. The time I really, really remember it firmly was when we were passing the rent stabilization bill, or working to pass it, and whether or not we had the votes, and the work that he was doing to help us get the votes, to make sure that we could pass a bill, to make sure that people could stay in the housing that they had rented and not have astronomical rent increases.
Thank you.
And he did actually have a little bit of sweat on his forehead the last time he came in to me, but because of that great work that he did, we were able to pass that bill and really help renters in Washington State. So he's very amiable and calm on the outside, but is just one of the most hardworking people that he doesn't make it look that hard. It's amazing kind of how he creates that illusion. But along with that, the two things that go together so wonderfully in Strom are his persistence and his willingness to engage with anybody. I mean, you all probably know, right? You have another county council member, Sam Lowe, who's a Republican, who he serves with both on the county council and in the House, and they both they co-lead on housing issues. He and Sam, a Republican, work very, very well together, and he at times has to say, we're not doing that, or we are doing this. But he never does it by slamming a door in somebody's face. He tells them what's going on. He tells them why. He also shows a willingness to move when people bring issues to him and find a new spot, like when people make a good argument. So he's just very persistent and open and wanting to create the right solutions for people. In the end, the last thing I want to say about Strom that I love particularly is that he is a person who is always based in his values as he makes decisions, and he's clear on his values, and he's not conflicted by them. And that's why I thought it was so lovely that this event for him is being hosted by someone who's the exact same way, Rick Steves, right? Mm-hmm. No question about your values, that you're grounded in them, and that you always use that grounding in those values to help steer you in the direction that you're going to go. And I think you've seen this over the long time that Strom has represented you, that he too is based in those values, and you are always going to know where he's going to end up on something, and he's always going to have room enough to move as he gets to those values. So I'm very happy to see the place filled for Strom. I'm sure none of you give a crap about Rick Steves' house or Rick Steves. It's all Strom, all Rick.
Yeah! Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo!
And I think with that, Strom Peterson.
Yeah.